بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. So we have looked at the ahruf, yeah, last time. Sab'atu ahruf. We want to start looking at the qira'at of the Quran now. Qira'at. And we will try and do this over 2 lessons, this chapter on qira'at of the Quran. And I was thinking, this really, at this stage, is good as to just to appreciate these concepts of ahruf and the different opinions. And then qira'at, what do they mean? I think qira'at is much more straightforward than ahruf. Ahruf is one scholar said it is mutashabih. It is something that we don't know about completely. I think I mentioned it before. But because of the hadith mutawatir, that's why we have to focus to try and understand it, because Allah Ta'ala would not have told the Prophet ﷺ something important about the Quran and then it doesn't mean anything, if you know what I mean. Khair. So the qira'at, there are lots of questions as well. Qira'at is a plural, yeah, which means the recitations. Qira'at instead of qira'at. Qira'at is one recitation, yeah. We will definitely be asking, and I'll be asking my teacher and discussing with him what is the difference between ahruf and qira'at. Because when we look at the opinions that we looked at, and the opinion, do you watch the video, by the way? Okay. So if you had watched the video, you would have seen that Sheikh Adnan, I think his name is, he gives us 6 or 7 examples, like, you know, the opinion given not by Taqi Usmani, but the one he thinks is the better one, where he gave 6 or 7 examples as well of the, I don't know if we have it still or not. Probably no, we don't have it now here. Yeah, all of that. So when we study the qira'at, what I have ascertained from the book is that this is really talking about the words, letters, and the tajweed rules. Focus is on that, the qira'at. But this was one of the examples given for ahruf as well. Yeah, that the word is different or the tajweed rules are different. So therefore there's in my mind, no clarity about how should we understand ahruf different to qira'at, if you like. But inshallah we will try our best through inquiry. So anyway, let's look at what the book has mentioned. So they have mentioned qira'at as the plural. It means recitation. And as I said, the words, letters, the pronunciation of the words, and the tajweed rules. These are the 4 main things that the qira'at, they focus on according to this, the book we have read. In Al-Itqan, there is not much detail. I was a bit surprised, to be honest. In Al-Itqan, which is Imam Suyuti's book. Maybe I have to search again, but I was surprised that there's not as much detail about qira'at there. Khair. There must be some reason for that. So the book is talking about the history of qira'at. reminding us to appreciate that this is an oral tradition, the Quran, and its preservation initially is the oral manner in which it was transmitted, and until today it is transmitted orally. The teacher, who is the Hafiz, will orally transmit that, yeah, and the Qiraat especially, yeah, will orally transmit it. We have to understand that the Qiraat, they are all the ones that we know. There are more than, there's another question we need to ask, I need to ask. We know of 10 Qiraat, but there are more. But these 10 Qiraat, they fulfill the criteria for being authentic, which is to be, the narration has to reach the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah. So the narration, Qiraat, it was, for example, X learned this from this Tabi'in, successor, who learned it from this or these Sahaba, who of course the chain goes back to the Prophet ﷺ. So the 10 Qiraat that we will look at, these are Sahih because the chain of narration goes back to the Prophet ﷺ. That's one condition that has to be met. And the other condition, do you know anything about that? What do you think? Okay. So that would be in that mutawatir, yeah? Within this condition, mutawatir, yeah? There's one other condition, that it must conform with the Mus'haf of Uthman radiallahu anhu. Must conform to the Mus'haf of Uthman radiallahu anhu for it to be an authentic Qiraat, or from the authentic Qiraat. Now when Uthman radiallahu anhu, as we studied after Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he then compiled the Quran in order of the surahs, yes? Because the job in time of Abu Bakr by Zayd ibn Thabit and the committee, it was to bring it together, but it was not necessarily in the order of the surahs, yeah. And he left out the tashkil, the vowels and the dots. And we know this, yeah, but just reiterating that. So his methodology was not just to send the mushaf, the masahif, the actual copies. He would send with a qari or qaris who would have learnt from the Prophet ﷺ, so that when they teach the qiraat, they would teach it, because this is chain of narration going to the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah? So this is something we have to appreciate. So they made a lot of effort for the Quran in its preservation and in its dissemination, if you like, to spread the Quran. And this, you can understand it as Allah Ta'ala's plan when He says that I will preserve the Quran. So this is part of His plan, yeah? The mu'jiza. Okay. And we know that all the recitations, they will originate from the Prophet ﷺ, or the Qiraat. Then it goes into a bit of history, talks about, as we know, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, there was no codified, for example, fiqh, usul al-fiqh, yeah, usul al-hadith, okay, ulum al-Quran, wasn't there as a codified subject like we are studying now. So these qiraat, although they were known, but they hadn't been codified for this knowledge to be preserved and to then be transmitted and taught. But at the end of the first century of Hijri, the need arose, so therefore then the codification of the sciences of Qiraat started to be codified. And then I have written here to read just one paragraph from page 186. So it reads there that to summarize what has been mentioned in this discussion, the Qira'at are particular methodologies of reciting the Quran. So this is relevant to the recitation. And they are named after the Qaris who recited the Quran in that particular manner and were famous as being the leaders in that field of Qira'at. They represent the various ways that the companions learnt the Quran from the Prophet ﷺ. They differ from each other in various words, so that homes in what is Qira'at, pronunciations and the tajweed rules. They are not the same as the 7 ahruf. So this summarizes this for us simply. Okay. Many books on the different qira'at, and then it goes through them. He mentions one author, he has compiled 25 qira'at, another 5, another 20 qira'at. So I need to ask about that. How do we understand that? But the book that is most known, well known, is by Abu Bakr Ahmad ibn Mujahid. Abu Bakr Ahmad bin Mujahid. Yes. So he died in 324 Hijri. 324 Hijri. Yeah? Now he wrote a book, Kitab al-Qiraat. Yes. And in his book, he compiled 7 qira'at. He had researched and he selected the 7 qira'at. But unfortunately, this then was misunderstood by the masses until today even, that there are just 7 qira'at. You get it? So people thought because 7 ahruf, 7 qira'at, so 7 samawat. Yeah. So people, you understand? People start to then think of 7, 7, 7. So the scholars of later on, they said that this was a mistake. Of course, he didn't intend to make this as a mistake. He didn't intend that. But this caused a lot of confusion and the misconceptions. Sab'a qira'at. You hear this, isn't it? Even now, Sab'a qira'at. Yeah. Whereas this is not the case. They are not just 7 qira'at. So this has been mentioned as a misunderstanding that we need to be aware of. It then talks about the conditions of a qira'at. Yeah. For a qira'at, conditions that should be met. Really, there are just 2 conditions, really, but he talks about a third one, but then he reconciles it to say, not really, that's not really a condition. The 2 are what we mentioned, that there needs to be an authentic chain of narrations, yes, to the Prophet ﷺ. Okay. And the second is that it must conform with the Mus'haf of Usman. Usmani Mus'haf. The third one is it must also not contradict Arabic grammar, but then he discusses this to say that, well, Arabic grammar, to be honest, for us as believers, is not the yardstick for revelation, rather it is the other way around. So therefore you cannot use that as a condition. And he then discusses and he says that, he concludes that every authentic narration, every qira'at, yes, that we know with the 2 conditions, it never contradicts Arabic grammar. It doesn't do that anyway. So therefore, the third is not really a condition. So he said this is not a condition. The third one is not really a condition to put whether a qira'at is authentic or not. So this tells us that the qira'at, they are tawqifi, they are something that the Prophet ﷺ taught to different companions, and we have been able to authentically narrate them with evidence so that we know this is qira'at. So therefore nothing can creep into this. Yes? I think that's really the important thing. And then there is mention of, so this is sahih. So the types of qira'at. So when the scholars of qira'at, they research just like the scholars of hadith, and then they categorize the qira'at according to their authenticity. So the first is sahih. Yes, sahih. Which means that it has the two conditions, that it is one narrated, the chain of narration goes to the Prophet ﷺ, mutawatir, and it is in conformity with the Musaf of Usman radiallahu anhu. This is sahih. And these are the 10 that we know of. The second category is shadh. 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 Yes, shadh. Shadh means something that is not regular, is not known. Yes? So they call it irregular. Irregular. And they say that shadh is that qira'at, or that qira'at, that does not meet the condition that it conforms with the Usmani Musaf. So it does not conform with the Uthmani Musaf, although it might have a chain of narration to the Prophet ﷺ. So they said this qira'at is shadh, irregular, it is not sahih. Clear? Third category of qira'at, da'if, da'if, weak, da'if. This is the one that does not meet the condition of the chains of narration going to the Prophet ﷺ. So therefore it does not meet the first condition. Yes? So this is da'if. The fourth is batil, which means there is false qira'at. And this does not meet the conditions at all. No conditions are met. So the scholars of the past, they have done a lot of hard work. And I'm interested in finding, there must be a resource where the differences in the qira'at have been compiled. You come across that? The different 10 qira'at, for example. So how do they differ? Which ayat are they? Which surahs? There must be some work, definitely, no doubt. People in the past that did all of this hard work. The other thing to note here is that when it comes to tafsir, scholars say that you can take the shadh and the da'if qira'at in order to understand the Quran, as long as you highlight this. Yes? You highlight that this tafsir we are doing of this ayah or this word is according to a shadh qira'at or a da'if qira'at, so that it is known. But the sahih qira'at are the only qira'at that you can use to pray. In prayer, if you use shadh or da'if, the prayer is invalid. Or you can use these in tafsir to try to understand. Because you will find that it will not, as we said with the ahruf as well, the tafsir, the understanding of the meaning of the ayah that Allah intended, it would only give it more clarity for us, or might give another angle. It would not contradict the meaning. Wallahu alam. Therefore, it would be interesting to see this, if you know, examples of this, which are not in this book, of course. So these are different types of qiraat based on the authenticity. The first is the sahih, then the shadh, then da'if, and then batil, which is not correct. Anyway, so then we go on to, move on to, this is an exercise really. I started it, but then I stopped halfway because there's so many names and there's so many dates, etc., which is a good exercise in itself. Yeah. So the book has gone into some detail to list the 10 qiraat. Yeah, who are the originators of those qiraat. So we've mentioned a few of them now, and I'll just copy what I've written here for you. So the authentic qiraat, the 10 authentic qiraat, that is sahih qiraat, yeah. First one, and what you should do is, this is your job now, yeah? I would like to see, it would be very useful. I would like to see a table, yes, with columns, stating the qiraat founder, if you like. I have done some of this for you anyway. The dates, and then who this Qari took his qiraat from, which tabi'in or tabi'in, sahaba, one or many, and then of course this chain is to the Prophet ﷺ. And then the two most, if you like, the two best students of this Qari. Because we have heard of Qalun and Warsh and Duri and etc. These are students of this Qari. And it's not clear to me yet why we refer to the recitation as, for example, Warsh and Qalun, when they are two. Well, I suppose it's sort of clear now that I've mentioned it in my mind. I'm processing it. Because it mentions in the book even that they had slight difference, the two, yeah, in their qiraat. Maybe that's why I have to still properly digest this and ask Sheikh about this stuff. But anyway, this is a good, alhamdulillah, exercise we are doing. So the first one given is Nafi. An-Nafi'. He is in Medina, Madani. And then his life has been mentioned there briefly. His life is from 70 to 169 Hijri, which means he was 99 years of age. So he has learned, so the chain is from him to Abu Ja'far, and I've taken just some of the brief, I haven't gone into detail yet. Abu Ja'far Yazid ibn Qaqa ibn al-Qa'qa. Yes, who is a tabi'i. He is tabi'i. He came after the Sahaba. But he met the Sahaba, yeah? Who learned from Abu Huraira. He learned from Abu Huraira. Who learned from Ubay ibn Ka'b. Ubay ibn Ka'b. Who learned from the Prophet ﷺ. Ubay ibn Ka'b, he is known as the Qari of Medina. He is Qari of Medina. So you can see now, Nafi from Abu Ja'far Yazid ibn al-Qa'qa, who is Tabi'i, who learned from Abu Huraira, radiallahu anhu, who is Sahabi, who learned from Ubay ibn Ka'b, radiallahu anhu, who is Sahabi, and the chain goes to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So this Nafi and Nafi, the two students of his who are known to be the best are Qalun and Warsh. Now in the book it says Qalun, but then it gives a name. So now I don't know what is Qalun. If you look at the book, if you look at it, you look at the book. Here, if you see this, Qalun. It says he is Isa ibn Mina al-Zarqi. So what is Qalun? You see that? Qalun is his name. Maybe. I'm guessing it is because it says the two students who preserved his qira'ah are Qalun and Warsh. You see the confusion? I'm not sure whether Warsh is his name, but his name is Abu Sa'id Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Misri. Qalun and Warsh may be there. Qalun and Warsh may be there. No, but where did the name come from? Because it says two students. So I have to ask these questions to my sheikh. What does this mean? Anyway. So this is the first Nafi. Yes, first one. The second one then is, and he also mentioned that Nafi is from the recitation of Nafi is the one that Imam Malik rahimahullah he used to recite. Imam Malik, who died in 179. So Nafi died 169, Imam Malik died 179. So they were contemporary, Nafi. Was there any mention of Nafi in the, no, Nafi, no. This is Madani, he's Madani. Nafi. Okay. The second is Ibn Kathir. Now this is not the Ibn Kathir that we know, yeah? Because Ibn Kathir that we know, he was in the, I think, 6th or 7th century. Tafsir of Ibn Kathir, that is different. This is Ibn Kathir, he is Makki. Nafi is Madani, he's Makki. His life is 45 to 120 Hijri. So 75 years of age. 85. No. Yeah, 85 years of age. He is a Tabi'i. Tabi'i who saw the Sahaba. 75. Yeah, 75. So he's Tabi'i. He's Tabi'i, yeah? Tabi'i. So he learned, he met Anas ibn Malik and Abdullah ibn Zubair. He met Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu and Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu. He learnt from other tabi'i, Abi Sa'ib. Other tabi'i, he learnt qiraat from, yeah? Abi Sa'ib, so there's a chain. He also learned from Mujahid ibn Jabr. Mujahid ibn Jabr. And he learned from Darbas, who is the slave of Ibn Abbas. Slave of Ibn Abbas. Yes. And he learned from Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas, who learned from Zayd ibn Thabit, and Ubay ibn Ka'b. Ubay ibn Ka'b again. Eh? Fortunate people. Eh? Subhanallah. And the chain then is to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. So Ibn Kathir Makki, he is a tabi'i who learned from these tabi'in, Abi Sa'ib, Mujahid ibn Jabr, Darbas, who learned from Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and then he learned this from Zayd ibn Thabit and Ubay ibn Ka'b, who learned from the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. But the two students here are Al-Buzzi. I have not heard of this before. Al-Buzzi and Qumbal. Yes, so like in the previous it was Qalun and Warsh. Here the two students are Al-Buzzi and Qumbal. So you can see the first one there, Nafi. And look at the date, 70 to 169. Here is 45 to 120. So Ibn Kathir, he is, you can see before Nafi. Okay, third one is, and sorry to forget, Ibn Kathir, is this recitation is the one that Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah used to recite. Imam al-Shafi'i, who died 204 Hijri. Imam Malik 179 Hijri and Imam Shafi'i 204 Hijri. Third one is Abu Amr al-Basri. Abu Amr Basri. He's from Basra. Basri. His time is from 69 to 154 Hijrah. So therefore, again, I like to see a chart so we can compare all these. You can see many things in it. You see a chart in front of you in one document, it will be very useful. So he's a contemporary with Nafi, and he's born in Makkah, but he lived in Basra. He is a tabi'i. Sorry, he's tabi'i. Yes, he's tabi'i. No, I didn't mention he's tabi'i, but he learned from tabi'in. Abu Ja'far, tabi'i Abu Ja'far, and he learned from Abu al-Aliyah. Aliya, Abu Aliya, who learned from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Yes? The two popular students here are Ad-Duri and As-Susi. You heard of this, Abdullah? Huh? Good. Ad-Duri, As-Susi. So they are the famous students of Abu Amr Basri. Okay, and we'll do one more, then we, inshallah, end for today with that. The fourth one is Ibn Amir Ash-Shami. So he is in Sham. Shami. His life is 21 to 118 Hijri. MashaAllah. 98 years, 97 years. SubhanAllah. I don't think I completed that. Let's read it in the book. I have a patchy here. Patchy, let me see number 4. He lived in Damascus, which was the capital of the Muslim Empire. He met some of the companions and studied under the Sahabi Abu Darda and Al-Mughira ibn Abi Shihab. So he's Tabi'i. He was the Imam of the Umayyad Masjid, Damascus, during the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, and was well known for his recitation. Among the 7 Qaris, he has the highest chain of narrators. He least number of people between him and the Prophet ﷺ, since he studied directly under a companion. He was also chief judge of Damascus, Qazi. His qira'ah became accepted by the people of Syria. He died on the day of Ashura. And the 2 primary Qaris who preserved his qira'ah are Hisham and Ibn Zakwan. And these people are giants, really. If you look at Hisham, he was well known for his recitation and his knowledge of hadith and fiqh, and was one of the teachers of Imam al-Tirmidhi. He's teacher of Imam al-Tirmidhi, subhanAllah. And Ibn Zakwan, he was also the Imam of the Umayyad Masjid during his time. So these people, this was their speciality. So in the next time we will look at the other remaining 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the qira'ah today, we will see that the most popular one is Hafs and Asim. We will look at that, inshallah. And then the benefits, and then some examples of qira'at, inshallah. So that's our, I think, for today.